and salutations, book lovers. My name is Samantha, and today we're going to be talking about love. I just love. Valentine's Day is one of my favorite holidays ever. Like, Valentine's Day and Christmas are like neck and neck for me. I just love Valentine's Day. I love romance books. That's no secret here on my channel. So since Valentine's Day is around the corner, I thought it'd be really fun to talk about some things I love in books and some of my favorite books. I'll be giving book recommendations, and it's gonna be a good time. Yes, I'm gonna say love about 1,000,000 times in this video because I'm talking about all the stuff I love in books. So yes, we're gonna hear that word a lot, but it's okay. It's Valentine's Day. It's February. We're just gonna roll with it. We're also gonna roll with is the fact that my hair is wet and is frizzy and looks ridiculous. But we're just gonna pretend it looks amazing, right? That's what we're gonna pretend. So I have 3 tropes that I'm going to be talking about, just some stuff I really like in my romance books. All of the books I'm going to be talking about today are romance books because it's Valentine's Day, guys. But I would love to follow up with this video of like my favorite things in fantasy, favorite things in sci-fi. I can even do like a flip and do my least favorite things in book. But right now, we're going to just be gushing about some books that I haven't really talked about with you guys. Some of my favorite tropes. Let's just start. I don't know why, but I couldn't get that intro out. I was just like pushing through it. Okay. So the first trope and probably my favorite trope in romance is friends to lovers. I absolutely adore a friends to lovers trope. There's just something so sweet about like following that friendship that turns into a romance when people fall in love with their best friends. It just makes my heart pitter patter and I love it. Some of my favorites are, I have 2 from Christina Lauren that follow that friends to lovers trope, and I think they do it so incredibly well. The way they write their characters and their friendships turning into romance is just magnifique. Chef's kiss. Absolutely love Christina Lauren's writing. I have talked about their books time and time again because they're just like the magical duo when it comes to romance. One of my favorite books of all time is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. I love this book so much. I love this book because you really follow their friendship and it just turns into such a sweet romance, and it is so hilarious. These characters together are just so funny. It follows Josh and Hazel, who know each other from like college, I believe, but they end up meeting again in their adult life because Hazel is, what was I gonna say? Because Hazel works with Josh's sister. Gosh, words are difficult right now. And they start to become friends, and they end up doing this thing where they go on blind dates with each other, where they pick out each other's dates and they just go out on these random dates, and hilarity ensues. It's just so funny to see them like pick each other's dates and go out on dates, and to see their friendship grow, eventually turning into their romance, is the sweetest thing. I think that Christina Lauren did such a good job with this book because a lot of friends to lovers books, the problem that I have sometimes is that the friendship is already pre-established. So you go into the book knowing that they're friends, but you never really get to see them become friends. You never get that sort of like meet cute. And most of the time it just goes right into the romance. This, you really get to see them become friends and then that friendship turn into something more, and it's honestly so sweet. Josh is like the epitome of a book boyfriend. He's just one of the sweetest characters and one of my favorite male characters ever, and I could just read this book time and time again. It makes me incredibly happy. Another one that, oh, by the way, I give this a 5 stars, duh, if you haven't guessed. Another one that Christina Lauren wrote that I really love is Love in Other Words. This is a little bit more, I wouldn't say hard-hitting, but it's not as like humorous and lighthearted as Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. It does touch on some heavier topics in this book, and it's kind of like a mixture of friends to lovers and a second chance romance. So it follows Macy and Elliot, who have been friends since they were kids. Macy has a summer home that her next door neighbor is Elliot, and they sort of grow up together and see each other every summer and develop a friendship. They do get separated, you know, they kind of lose touch in their teenage and into their adult years because of something that happens in the book, but they do end up coming back together, and it follows their story. Their friendship is really prevalent in the book, and I just adored their story. So again, another friends to lovers romance that is so good. I feel like I'm describing these books so horribly. Like, what else am I supposed to say other than I love them, right? Another amazing Friends to Lovers romance that I read because of Chandler here on BookTube. I will link her channel down below. She recommended The Guy on the Right by Kate Stewart. I believe you can find the book on Kindle Unlimited. That's where I personally read it, and I just loved it. What else can I say? The book was a 5-star for me. It follows Theodore. I almost forgot his name for a second. It follows Theodore and Lainey, who meet at a party, and the way they meet is very, like, friend zone from the beginning, okay? So Theodore meets Lainey at a party, and she throws up, basically, on his shoes, and they end up just hilariously becoming friends, and then it follows their romance, and it's a college romance, which I love. The reason the book is called The Guy on the Right because he's sort of the guy that kind of blends in the background. He's not the jock, the front and center, the one all the girls want. He's a very, like, subdued, sweet kind of character, and he's always lived his life being the best friend or being the guy that was kind of just passed up or the guy that girls take advantage of. And it just follows his story, and it's a very different type of male character, and I loved it because he was sweet, he was unapologetically himself, and Lainey was hilarious, and their personalities were so different, but they complemented each other so well. Another one of those books where I feel like the author did an amazing job, where we really got to see them become friends first. They didn't have a pre-established friendship. We got to see them become friends first, then we got to see those friendship turned into, like, romantic feelings, and it was just a really sweet, sugary sweet romance. Highly recommend. If you are looking for, like, a new college romance series, I definitely highly recommend that one, and I'm very glad that I picked it up. Alright, so the next trope that I love in books is love triangles, and I'm very specific about this one. Very specific. So I feel like when you think of love triangles, I don't know, what is like a classic love triangle? Like Edward, Jacob, and Bella, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, that kind of thing. The problem I have with love triangles is that I want, like, an equally balanced love triangle. I want everyone to have a shot. I want all of them to be connected. And I feel like oftentimes with, like, love triangles, there's always, like, you know who she's going to end up with. Like, in Twilight, it's like, you know she's going to end up with Edward. Jacob really didn't stand a chance. I don't really feel like that was, like, an even balanced love triangle. I want something where they're all kind of connected and it's just a lot of angst and love, and that's what I want. And this book gives it to me. It's Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton. I will never shut up about this book. It's one of my favorite books I read in 2019. This book is not, I wouldn't classify this book as, like, just a romance. It's definitely more of like a fantasy where romance is in the plot, but it's not like the center of the plot. It's just enough romance, if that makes any sense. I feel like I've described this book so many times, but I'm going to describe it again because everybody needs to read it. The audiobook is absolutely gorgeous. I think the author's writing is so stunning. Basically this follows a town where they make a bargain with a devil, which sounds kind of creepy, but it's okay. We're just gonna roll with it. And they make a bargain with the devil where every 7 years, I believe, they sacrifice these boys to this thing that they call the Slaughter Moon. And because of the sacrifice, their town is able to live without sickness. Their crops are really plentiful. Well, something goes wrong with the bargain, and you follow these 3 characters' point of views, kind of figuring out what happened with the bargain, what was the true story between this deal with the witch and the devil. So talking about the romance or the love triangle, because that's kind of why I'm recommending this book, although the plot is amazing, I highly recommend it. It has a very spooky feel to it. Follow the 3 main characters who are in a polyamorous relationship, and it is very evenly balanced. I just feel like the love they have for each other romantically and as a friendship is so beautiful, and you can really see that they care about each other in this book, and they're all connected. There's not like one person who kind of like stands out and really doesn't fit in the love triangle. They're all connected in this just beautiful way, and I just love it so much. Don't have a lot of recommendations when it comes to love triangles because I feel like I've read so many, but not a lot of people have gotten it right. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like normally it's a very uneven love triangle, and I just don't vibe. I don't vibe with that. One that I will recommend is The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. Okay, so you could definitely kind of tell who she ends up with in the end, but it is still a very good book. Jandy Nelson writes books that make me very emotional. This book made me absolutely sob, cry, and scream, and throw the book across the room. So if that's what you're looking for, this is it. So the story follows Lenny, who is mourning her sister's death. She was very close to her sister, and her sister passed away, and she's just sort of finding herself and going through these emotions without her sister by her side. It's a very emotional book. In the story, she ends up forming a relationship with two boys. Joe, who is kind of like the new kid in school, who is a musical genius in her music class and is just like a prodigy. He's amazing at what he does, and he sort of catches her eye because he's new and fresh and sweet. And it also follows her relationship with Toby, who is actually her sister's boyfriend, her sister who passed away. His boyfriend, and just going through the guilt and the difficulties of that. And it's really a hard-hitting type of it's a really hard-hitting type of contemporary book, but the romance is definitely a center plot, and it does follow a love triangle, and I really did enjoy this book. This is another one where if you're not like a romance reader, I still think you would enjoy this, because the romance isn't the only plot in this book. It deals with a lot of other things like grief and finding yourself, and the romance happens to be kind of interwoven into it in a really beautiful way. So yes, although I wouldn't classify these two books as romances, they definitely do have love triangles in them, and they're beautifully written. So I'm just going to throw them in here, okay? Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to recommend one. Is the Palm South University series by Candy Steiner. It's another book I read on Kindle Unlimited, which was a recommendation from Jess from Peace Love Books, and it's a wild ride, let me tell you. Right now there's 4 books in this series, but I know that Candy Steiner said that her 5th book is coming out this year in June, or maybe July. She's continuing with the series, which is amazing. So basically you follow, I believe, 6 point of views. I think 6 point of views. Just the shenanigans of college life. And I mean, the way it's described is like an episode of Gossip Girl, and that's exactly how I would say it is. It's almost like you're watching a TV show. So like Gossip Girl, New Girl, you get the gist. It just follows the shenanigans of college, of heartbreak and romance and partying and making bad mistakes and choices, and finding yourself. And it is such a wild ride. You follow all of these characters' point of views. Obviously, you will like some characters more than others, but I think you do grow to like the majority of the characters. The reason I'm recommending this one in Love Triangles is because there is a ton of romance and relationships that happens in these 4 books. I mean, it's crazy. Like, you get the cheating, you get the relationships, you get the love triangles. There is a love triangle in this book, and I feel like there are like 3 love triangles in this book. Right? I don't want to like give anything away, and I don't want to say like who's the love triangle, but I definitely feel like the relationships are kind of interwoven, and it's really angsty and just a wild time. It's a good time. It's like a good old college time. Love this series so much. Didn't expect to love it as much as I did. Cassie, whatever her name is, however you pronounce it, and Adam are definitely my favorite characters. I love them, adore them, and if you're just looking for like a lighthearted book, this is it for you. This series is it for you. And I'm very excited to read more from Candy Steiner. So those are the recommendations I have for love triangles. Again, I don't really have that many because I feel like I've read tons, but not a lot that I've liked. So I'm very specific with my love triangles. Moving on, my last trope that I want to mention is sports romances. I love sports romances specifically. Like, if we want to be specific about it, I love college hockey sports romances. That's what I like. I don't know why I'm like so specific that it has to be hockey, but I am. So one of my favorite books is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. That is also a series. I believe it's called the Off-Campus series, where it follows a group of boys on this hockey team. And I just adore it. I love Elle Kennedy's writing. She also has another hockey romance that's co-written with Serena Bowen, I believe her name is, called Him and Us. And I mean, that book also is amazing. So anything by Elle Kennedy I would recommend for this, because she does write a lot of sports romances. The Deal is such a fun book. It basically follows our two main characters, and the girl is trying to get another guy's attention. So she ends up making a deal with our main character that she will help him in a class that they're in if he helps her kind of make this other guy jealous. But obviously they fall for each other, and it's adorable and it's sweet. I do want to mention a sports romance. It's not technically hockey, but I do love it, and that's the Foxhole Court series. I did a whole video of reading my favorite booktubers' favorites. Chandler, again, here on booktube. I will link that video I did down below where I read all of her favorites, or some of her favorites, and the series that I read was the Foxhole Court series, which is 3 books that follows this. It's a fictional sport, like not a real sport in real life, but it's real in the book, if that makes sense. It's sort of like a cross between like lacrosse and rugby. Anyways, I believe it's called XE. I think that's what the sport is called, and God, this series ruined me. This series was so good. It is heartwarming. It is emotional. It is fast-paced and interesting and very character-driven, and the relationship in this book is so hurts my heart, but makes me happy at the same time. Like, you just immediately fall in love with this entire team of characters. It follows this group of people who are in this sports team, and it's a ragtag type of sports team. Like, everyone on the team has been through something, and you're following Niall, who is sort of running, or Neil, sorry, I always want to say Niall, but I think it's Neil. Basically, he's running from something in his past, and you're following his story, and how he sort of forms his family with this team, and it's just beautiful. The friendships in this book are beautiful. The relationship is beautiful. The sport is actually pretty interesting, and I was very like intrigued whenever they were playing. I was always rooting for them to win. So if you like a sports romance, this book is so good. It is a slow burn romance. Like, you have to read the whole series to get really invested and really get that romance, because I don't think like the actual romance happens until the end of the 2nd book, maybe the beginning of the 3rd book, but I mean, gosh, what a great book. Just love it so much. So anyway, sorry if that video was all over the place. I hope you guys liked some of the book recommendations I gave you. Hopefully we have similar tastes in books. These are just a couple of the tropes that I really love. I would also really appreciate all of your book recommendations. Leave it down below. But if you guys wanted some books to read on Valentine's Day, here are some of my recommendations. Hopefully you like some of them. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with me. It means the world to me, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!